In a previous video, I covered the first 4 lifestyle factors that research has shown can add years, sometimes decades, to your life. If you haven't seen that episode, I highly recommend that you watch that first. In this video, we're going to finish the list and walk through the final 4 lifestyle factors. But these are habits that most people either underestimate or ignore, yet they play a massive role in longevity, disease prevention, and quality of life as we age. Let's continue.
Now, next on the list is a healthy diet. So this is an obvious one. And again, this is one that maybe it's going to cost you a little bit of money because you got to buy some higher quality food. But also you're going to save money because you're going to eat less food. And you're definitely going to eliminate a lot of junk from your life. What they found is that people who tend to eat a plant-based diet, not eliminating meat. They did not find that because you do, it's healthy to eat meat, but not being dependent on meat, but really reducing the amount of processed food. That's the biggest thing here. We're going to look at this study published in Nutrition Journal. So if we look at the abstract here, it has been estimated that 30 to 40% of all cancers can be prevented by lifestyle and dietary measures alone. When a diet compiled according to the guidelines here, it is likely that there will be at least a 60 to 70% decrease in breast, colorectal, prostate cancers, and even a 40 to 50% decrease in lung cancer, along with similar reductions in cancer in other sites. They are citing another study that found that a poor diet and physical inactivity, we've already talked about the importance of exercise, was a second leading cause of death, about 400,000 people per year in the United States, and would likely overtake tobacco as the leading cause of death. Now, they go on to say overweight and obese accounts for 14% of all cancer deaths in men and 20% in women. So being overweight and specifically obese is dangerous, very dangerous. A significant positive association was found between obesity and higher death rates for the following cancers: esophagus, colon, rectum, liver, gallbladder, pancreas, kidney, stomach in men, prostate, breast, uterus, cervix, and ovary in women. The authors estimated that over 90,000 cancer deaths per year could be avoided if the adult population maintained a normal BMI. Related to the topic of obesity and being overweight and our diet, and that is soda drinking. We know that drinking soda is terrible for your health. It's not bad, it's terrible for your health. But if we look at this study here, they are talking about worldwide, there's an estimated 184,000 deaths per year attributed to drinking sugar-sweetened beverage soda. And we know worldwide there's a total of 8.5 million disability-adjusted life years due to people drinking soda. This study here was really profound, and I really want you to pay attention to this. This study compared women who took a multivitamin compared to women who did not. Listen to what they found here. They found in the women that actually took a multivitamin, their telomeres were 5.1% longer than those who didn't. Now, what does it mean to extend the length of your telomeres by 5.1%? They go on to talk about this corresponds to 9.8 years of additional life. Let's look at the telomeres, which are the caps on the end of the chromosomes, which are in the cells. As you can see here, that as we age, these telomeres will shrink, and that scientists have found that this correlates with our life expectancy. So if there is a way of slowing down the shortening of the telomeres, that's something that you've got to look at. And listen, talk about a simple way of doing it, just taking a multivitamin. How simple is that? Next on the list is alcohol. And I know this impacts people in different ways, but what gets a bit confusing is a lot of people justify drinking mildly to moderate amounts of alcohol because they've seen the studies that show that it has some cardioprotective impacts on their health. And that is true. But when it all comes down to it, the studies will tell you that for whatever positive impact it has on your health, it has 10 times the negative impact on you particularly when it comes to cancer. And I know we're going over a lot of studies, talking a lot about cancer rates and things of that nature. And I know that's a very uncomfortable topic for a lot of people, but it's just a reality. Cancer kills over 600,000 people in our country every year. Heart disease is the number one killer, kills over 700,000 people per year. The problem with alcohol is it's impacting, significantly increasing your incidence of cancer. The reason for this is that alcohol or ethanol, when you ingest, now if you ingest just a little bit, your body can process it and generally speaking, not have it be a problem. But the problem is people drink too much. And what happens is the ethanol gets converted into acetaldehyde, which is a known carcinogen. And this chart here kind of shows this a little simple biology on what happens here. The acetaldehyde basically can cause mistakes in the DNA, your chromosome rearrangement, and cause your DNA to bind and form clumps, and essentially cause cancer. If we look in the American Journal of Public Health, they're looking at alcohol attributable cancer deaths in the years of potential life lost in the United States. Alcohol is estimated to account for about 4% of all deaths worldwide. Research over several decades has consistently shown that alcohol increases the risk of cancers of the oral cavity, the pharynx, larynx, esophagus, and the liver. Alcohol also increases your risk for colon, rectal, and female breast cancer. In this study, they found the majority of alcohol attributable female cancer deaths were in the form of breast cancer, whereas upper airway esophageal cancer deaths were more common amongst men. Daily consumption of up to 20 grams of alcohol, which is essentially the same or less than 1.5 drinks per day, accounts for 26 to 35% of alcohol attributable cancer deaths. So drinking a beer every time you come home after work, folks, it's not a good idea. Alcohol remains a major contributor to cancer mortality, and higher consumption increases the risk. There's no real known safe level of alcohol to drink. They're estimating that 19,500 alcohol-related cancer deaths is greater than the total number of deaths from some types of cancer that receive much more prominent attention, such as melanoma and ovarian cancer. And this accounts for more than 2/3 of all prostate cancer deaths in 2009. And here, as I said this earlier, alcohol results in 10 times as many deaths worldwide, even after one considers possible beneficial effects of low-level use for cardiovascular disease and diabetes. Here we have another study published in BMC Public Health. And here it's kind of interesting. They're kind of looking at what is the comparison between drinking alcohol and tobacco. They find here that 1 bottle of wine per week is associated with an increased absolute lifetime risk of alcohol-related cancers in women driven by breast cancer, equivalent to the increased absolute cancer risk associated with 10 cigarettes per week. Next on our list is restorative sleep. There are those who have the false idea that, hey, I can function on anywhere from 4 to 6 hours of sleep and I still get the job done. But if you do that, you will reduce your lifespan. You just will. Now, yes, there are people that have that mutated gene that doesn't require as much sleep, and they may be able to get by with just 4 to 5 hours, but that only accounts for about 1 to 3% of the population. So unless you're in that extremely rare category, you need to get at least 7 hours of quality sleep every night. I mean, you're actually better to get 8, but the bare minimum is 7. Number 8, which is last, but certainly not least on our list of lifestyle factors to increase our longevity, and that is maintaining positive social relationships. To get into this discussion, we're going to talk about what's known as the Harvard Happiness Study. This is the longest running study that's ever been done in our country. We're talking about a research project that's been going on for over 80 years, where they have followed the lives primarily of men. They began by tracking the health of 268 Harvard sophomores in 1938 during the Great Depression. And interestingly enough, one of the subjects in the study was one of our future presidents, John F. Kennedy. They eventually also looked at a large group of inner city boys because they wanted to look at the upper class group of young guys, and then they want to compare their future health and happiness essentially for those who were not as privileged, living in an inner city and poor. They found that close relationships, more than money or fame, are what keep people happy. They have looked at many things with these people. They eventually included women in the study because they looked at the wives and the offspring of these men that initially started the study. And they did blood work, they did medical tests, obviously interviews, and had them fill out various questionnaires. They found that with all of the different medical outcome assessments, the best predictors of a long and happy life was not social class or IQ or even genes, and that finding these positive social relationships had the most impact. And it didn't matter if they were the young men that started off at Harvard or the poor kids from the inner city. Now, what they did find was that obviously romantic marital relationships were definitely very important, but it wasn't absolute. So it wasn't a matter of having to have a great relationship with your husband or wife. That would be great if that happens, but it could be relationships with your friends or your family or even your children. One thing they did find though is that negative social relationships impacted their health and happiness in the other direction. They did point out that loneliness kills, and it's as powerful as smoking and alcoholism. At the end of the day, it's our relationships with our family and our loved ones and our friends, that really amount to what's important. And it's so nice to see that this really impacts how long we live as well, or the quality of the life that we live. Now, going back to our original study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, what the authors discuss that if we could adopt these 8 lifestyle factors, we could prevent 90% of cases of diabetes, 80% of coronary artery disease, 70% of cardiovascular mortality, and 50% cases of cancer. Think about that. Adding the additional 24 years to the life of men and 20 and a half years to the life of women, this applied for people who started doing these lifestyle factors at the age of 40. Now you might say, well, I guess I'm screwed because I'm 55. I waited too late. But no, it's never too late, because what they also found is that if you didn't start doing these things until the age of 50, there was still a benefit. Men could gain an additional 21.3 years of additional life, and women could gain an additional 18.9 years to their life. But you say, Dr. Eriksen, I'm 62. Again, I'm screwed. I waited too long. No, it's never too late, because they found that if you started to adopt these 8 lifestyle factors compared to the group of people who do none of these lifestyle mitigating factors, that if you waited at 60, you would be able to have an additional 18 years of life added if you're a woman, and an additional 16 and a half years of life extended if you're a man. So please take this to heart, folks. This is really important. Human nature causes us to not want to address issues until it's too late, and then we're motivated to do something. And as I said, it's never too late to try to adopt some of these strategies, but just like investing in the stock market, the earlier you do this, the better you're going to have to reap gains on your investment. You're worth it. When it comes to your health, you've got to take control of it. You've got to educate yourself. You've got to do the things that are going to not only enhance the quality of your life, but essentially increase your longevity. And you can be around much longer to enjoy your family and your loved ones. I hope you learned something today.
I've put together a free guide that walks you through the 8 lifestyle factors that research has shown can add up to 20 plus years to your lifespan. It covers daily habits, nutrition, movement, and key behaviors that really make a difference. The link is in the top of the description below. Click it and I'll send the guide straight to you. And if this video was helpful, please show your support by hitting the like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss future videos.